Sweet. Right on. I think we're live. Yeah. Cool. We're live. Ripping. Dallas, thanks for coming in, dog.
Yeah, good to be here.
I'm psyched to have you. Let's see. What is going on here? So today is December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. You guys have still got a full 8 days to finish off the year strong.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're planning on it. That's the goal. We're gonna
yeah.
get there well ahead of the last day.
8 days of work. I like it. Um, and then let's see. Let's jump in first. So last week we had Laura from Drone Deck on, and people were super excited to talk about projects working in and around this kind of blockchain and meat space, and specifically also with Helium. And that's kind of what you guys are doing. But for people who haven't seen React Networks before, or React Network before, what do you guys do?
Absolutely, yeah. The React Network is a protocol to basically accelerate our clean energy transition as it relates to the power grid. And we're really what we're doing is we're connecting valuable assets at the grid edge. This is in people's homes, so it's a network that anybody can participate in. If you have the ability to touch a thermostat, pay an energy bill, you can dig in here. But there's a lot of valuable assets at the grid edge that are currently, predominantly unconnected and just sitting in people's homes for personal resiliency.
Yeah.
Wielded together, we can create, the impacts that are as large as physical power plants. So that's what we're building. You hear a lot about bigger things in the energy transition.
Yeah.
Big solar and wind developments, and that's fantastic. But these assets are, while they are clean energy sources, they are intermittent. So the sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing, and what we're really doing is creating the flexibility layer at the grid edge to be the complement to those assets
Yep.
and make it all work together.
All right. Love it. There's a ton of stuff. So you and I and Jason, your partner, and one other guy, I've had a bunch of conversations. But for folks who are not kind of familiar with the energy grid, let's see. Where should we start this? Let's start with kind of what you did before React Networks. I think that'll be a nice setup to talk about what it actually is.
Sure. So
Aside from football, apparently you're some kind of football player. Max was like, "Holy shit, that's Dallas Griffin from blah blah blah." And I was like, "Ah, cool."
I like to describe myself as a has-been, but in a previous life, I was 100 pounds bigger. I was an offensive lineman for the University of Texas uh,
Jeez.
back in the Vince Young era. So I'm an old man in this space, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. So post UT, I spent my entire career in the energy sector, advising oil and gas companies, energy companies on mergers and acquisitions, strategic alternatives, capital raises. So I've spent my entire life from growing up in Houston, Texas area to school in Austin to professional life, advising energy companies. It's all
Yep.
been in and around energy. This is
Yeah.
in Texas, energy isn't something you think about on the weekends. It's kind of what we do down here. Um, so that's my background.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in the advisory world. The rest of the team, comes from the energy sector as well. One
Yeah.
of our co-founders is a 15-year power trader. These are pretty complex markets. I think as we think about how do we utilize these devices together, these connected assets, and help people earn with those assets.
Yeah.
We've got the right team around here just to help send this in the right direction.
Okay.
So that was my life before Anode React here.
Love it. And then let's see. So what they do is you guys have actually switched what you're doing a couple times, and I think that's one of the most exciting things about working with you. And full disclosure, Gristle King is working with Anode React. Is seeing that you guys are pivoting and that you're willing to change what you're doing in response to not just market conditions, but as your understanding deepens of what's going on. That's really cool. It started off, if I remember right, it was just it was like a small battery and a fridge or a home battery? Those are the first two?
Yeah. So, I think, we really covet the idea of energy storage at the grid edge.
Yep.
Uh, and that's there's different ways that individuals can participate, right?
Yeah.
The holy grail, at the end of this, if we can get home batteries, whole home backup batteries in everybody's home, we're talking 10 to 20 kilowatt hour batteries. Um, that if you're able to do that, you have a network of just immense flexibility.
Yep.
And so that's something that we started off with a real focus around energy storage at the grid edge. We're still very focused there, but in terms of the initial device that we're really trying to incentivize and really as kind of the base layer,
Yep.
we're working to incentivize and reward people for the deployment of what's called a shadow meter.
Yep.
We may call it something else in literature.
Shadow meter sounds kind of cool, but yeah.
But anybody that's dialed in here, you're an OG. You have the responsibility. You're responsible enough to kind of work with a few different terms here.
Yep.
Basically, these are meters. That, I've installed two of them. No, I don't have an electrician's license or any. My wife wouldn't call me handy or anything. So we're all capable of doing this. But it's a simple device that you go to your breaker panel and you clip onto the mains. And this device allows us to stream real time electricity consumption data,
Yep.
and we can do a lot of interesting things with that data. So it would shock most people to know that really the state of data on our grid. It's kind of 1970s tech. Even the smart meter that you might have on the back of your home.
Yep.
In most cases, the utility is getting that data at month end, and so it's in arrears at the end of the month on 15-minute increments. So it's not all that smart.
Right.
With a simple sub $200 device, we can stream real time data where we're able to monitor both changes in voltage, changes in real time load. We can disaggregate the load. We can help people understand their electricity consumption in ways that they currently don't. So it could show you your air conditioning load when your toaster flips on. How much is this kind of always on load, your router, your TVs, and there's a lot of personal utility in these devices outside of all the cool stuff that we can do with them. But really, that data layer is a huge hole that's missing in helping us modernize the grid, and there's a ton of value in that alone. Beyond that, there will be multipliers for assets that provide real flexibility that is valued by the market.
Yep. Yep.
And so smart thermostats and still batteries. So we really want to get a lot of batteries on the network, but realize it's a bigger lift for people.
Yep.
And yeah. So what's really exciting about this though is these are assets that there's already demand for battery aggregations, for smart thermostat aggregations. The ability to be flexible is something that we as a network can be compensated for, and as we scale, the value of that asset only grows.
Right on. Okay, so let's. There's a ton of questions in the chat. I'll see if I can bring some of them in. This is always the big one, my man Orlando. So, how do you make money with Anode React? And I think I can do kind of broad strokes on it. Is that you put this meter on your house, and in return for your house providing information to the React network, you get paid in tokens. You can then do whatever you want with those tokens, trade them on the open market or whatever. Same thing with helium, right? You put up a helium miner, it provides LoRa coverage around you. You get paid for that LoRa coverage. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There's two extra kind of pieces here in that the information from your house is not the only thing that you'll be able to tokenize. You can also do the power side, and there's a couple questions about how much the batteries cost, what kind of connections they are, And then there's also the part where you can actually manage the energy in your house with a thermostat. So there's like three pieces to this, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll kind of bounce around a little bit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll answer Orlando's question. So yeah, I think if you think about just the energy business, there's some complexity here, but the in terms of the how we kind of balance the grid, if you will, right? So supply and demand on the electricity grid, they have to be in balance at all times. If they're not, things break. You have blackouts, rolling brownouts. You can have transmission lines that fry.
Yep.
So there's an immense amount of planning that goes into how we're going to balance to deliver supply to
Yeah.
match demand.
Yep.
And so for the last 60 years, the way that's been done is you have centralized generation, and you look at weather to and time of year and seasonal trends. So a grid operator will consider all of those things and try to estimate. Okay, I think I'm going to have this much demand at noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and what they'll do is that planning goes into the decision of how much coal to put on the conveyor belt to shovel into a plant, when to tell a natural gas plant 10 miles down the road to start warming up to come on at 1 p.m. So that this is the archaic way in which this of all the amazing technological advances that we've had in every industry, this is how we kind of do grid planning. It's on a day ahead basis, and it's very manual. Um, when we think about the data that we're collecting at the React network in this first initial shadow meter device, that will be better real time data than anybody has on the grid today. Any utility, any ISO, and
And ISO is an independent service operator. Is that right?
system integrator.
Systems. Okay. So, and
Yeah,
it's basically
system.
it's like the folks who are saying in this region,
Yes, exactly. So
we're
they
going to
sit
manage
over
the
the
energy.
utilities and kind of it's a layer of planning above those guys.
Yep.
But what this data will allow us to do, it'll allow us as a grid to better forecast consumption and to better plan for the day ahead.
Yep.
And so there's an entire industry that is buying your smart meter data to help retail electricity providers or utilities forecast for demand, a day ahead. So by having the best, most granular real time data, we've already built something that is very profitable and can be used to generate revenue. So in terms of how we generate revenue, that's data alone, just on enabling grid planners to have a better forecast of what's going to be consumed. Um, Beyond that, if we talk about these flexibility assets, um, I think you have both smart thermostats and batteries. Uh, you know, Batteries are more useful to the grid. Think of them as buckets of electrons, right?
Yep.
And so power prices. Well, everybody here is pretty pretty familiar with crypto being volatile. You can look at energy pricing as being even more volatile than some crypto prices.
Yep.
And so if you think about having a bucket of electrons, a battery in your home that is instantly dispatchable, right?
Right. And
When
dispatchable is like one of the kind of industry terms. Dispatchable means you can turn
Yes,
it on
so
or off.
dispatchable, we can put those electrons to use in our homes, um, at a moment's notice.
Yep.
That is flexibility that utilities and grid planners will pay for. And really, it's not meant to be a base load solution. It's not meant that we're going to, you know, always use batteries to power kind of during these hours. Uh, but it's a very effective layer of insurance. So everybody expects that the lights are going to be on tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And so if you're a utility, that's your job, and you're always willing to pay for insurance, extra standby electricity
Yep.
to come to the rescue. And
Make sure it's
and
there.
and, and so those are markets that already exist. That with real aggregations, we can employ the assets to the network and
Yep.
and create new opportunities.
Love it. All right, so there's three things that people can buy. This is kind of Ed's question: is the biggest thing you can buy, and eventually put on to React will be like the big home battery, right? And
Yeah.
what's like the price range for that?
Sure. Yeah. So we're working with several battery manufacturers, and there's a lot out there, right? You've got the Tesla Powerwall. We're working to bring more cost-effective solutions to market. With good tech. We've I guess 2 weeks ago, I was with in a solar installer's warehouse working with Franklin batteries.
Yep, that's right. I've seen the
Um,
pictures on Twitter. Those things look sharp. Let's get one up on the
yeah,
house here. Let's come on.
they're cool. They're cool.
Yeah.
But in terms of cost, that one is, call it a 13 and a half kilowatt hour battery, 13
Hmm.
and a half to 15 kilowatt hour battery, and the cost will be about $10,000. So it
Okay.
is a real cost,
Yeah, that's pretty big.
for these assets.
And you said
Um,
13 kilowatts. So there's this guy on here, Dustin. Apparently, his wife uses a lot of kilowatt hours. But it maybe
yeah,
if it's 20 to 30, and when she's gone, it's only 10. Maybe he's using
and
half
so
of it.
really,
But yeah,
and unless you're trying to do a total off grid solution, you typically won't have a battery that's going to power your home for an entire 24-hour period.
yeah.
Uh, Dustin, I feel my wife uses way more electricity, so uh, but
But they're pretty useful. It's pretty useful to have a partner. All right, what
no, it
else we
is.
got? We got
It is.
Mark shuts down here. We haven't talked to Max yet. Max, what's going on? Apparently, Mark came here for you.
Hey, Mark, how's it going? Yeah, no. So one thing I actually really like about this with the smart meter is it fills a bunch of different. It provides a service for people who otherwise wouldn't want to do crypto. I was thinking about my dad, who would love something like this, so he could measure how much power everything is drawing in the house.
Yeah,
He still does this. I'll go home and he'll like he'll print out the electric bill and put it up in the kitchen so that him and his wife can see every day how much power they've used. And then like in the summer, he also like puts it near the pool. So whenever you look at the pool, it's like, hey, use the pool because the filters are using a ton of energy. Um, so having a
That's
device like this, yeah. So having just the smart meter would be great for him because he would love that because he'd be like, well, the dryer used this much energy
yeah.
this month. And then the other nice thing is, so you have that. You also have the piece where like it's hard to kind of quantify how much power you're using when, just as an average person. But if I'm able to see now, like, okay, this is my power consumption at these times. If I were to get this battery, I can now forecast out what my what my consumption is at different times, and then how much I would save by getting a battery. Whereas, right now it's a sale of like, all right, do I really want to spend $7,000 to $10,000 on a battery? Yes, there's tax incentives there, but like, it seems like expensive. But if I can have these numbers and then look at the numbers and say, ooh, that's a really easy decision to do. It's going to be
yeah.
an easier way to bring in customers. And I really like the way that you guys have gone with that.
Yeah, no, that's well said, Max. I think you definitely get it. And this isn't the shadow meter that we'll be working with exactly, but I'll just kind of pop up here. They've got a web app too, but you can get a sense for. I don't know if that's very clear.
Yeah, yeah. I can see like the red line going across. Someone made a spike somewhere
And so
in the morning.
it's by the second energy consumption for my home. And it'll monitor even when there's a 40-watt blip up, somebody turned on a light.
Right.
Now, not all of that information is valuable to me, but there's some really cool things that you can do with that data. And Max, you hit it on the head. Um, you know, it, Knowing exactly your electricity consumption, you might not go and do the math. I mean, maybe everybody in this call is a tinkerer and would, but for the network at large, people that are casually interested in their electricity consumption, we would have a much better, idea of electricity plans that would save you money. Do you is where is your setup one that is top 10% most beneficial for solar and battery, for just solar, and really how could you optimize your personal electricity consumption where yeah, you're earning tokens, but you're also saving money and you're furthering these ESG initiatives.
Yeah.
Really, it's nobody has this data, nobody's using this data, but it's so easy to get, and really, I think it this business I think is impossible to build outside of a Web3 context. We I think people have long wanted to build a business like this, but pre kind of seeing what Helium did, there really wasn't a model to have people put these devices into their homes and benefit personally from the value of the data and the value of the network that they're taking part in building here. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Dig it. Does it go both ways here? The Siegfried's question. Can you get batteries? Yeah. I'll let you read it.
Yeah. So so batteries, they can charge when electricity is plentiful, and they will react to market signals. So really, kind of the grid planners and pricing kind of dictate how batteries behave. But it is around renewable generation. So right now, in South Texas, for instance, electricity is free, more or less. There's a ton of wind generation, and
Is it
there's no
free
way
at
to get.
certain times of day? Like that price fluctuates.
And it fluctuates primarily based on in that region on renewable. So when it's really windy in South Texas, if you had the ability to charge a battery, conceptually in the right market, you could get paid to charge your battery. And so you're taking electricity that has nowhere to go. It would just be grounded otherwise.
Got it.
Um,
And that's this thing
and
where it's like
so,
threatening to overwhelm the grid. That's that part of it. Sounds
yeah,
like
yeah.
Siegfried guys
So
better understand than I do.
and participation, opportunities are different in every market. There's some complexity there.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we're really excited about building this network is that, this is actually somewhere where the federal government wants these valuable assets to be connected because we're facing a huge problem. I guess it's a good place to start too. We haven't had any load growth for the past, call it 3 decades. So 30 years, electricity demand has looked like this. And that's largely driven by the fact that we've had a lot of energy efficiency improvements. So as we've become more efficient, even as the economy's grown, we've had, the grid, hasn't really had to deal with increasing demand. We're now at a place where, the IEA expects a 40% increase in demand by 2035. So EVs, it's not if they come, they're coming in greater quantities. That's already happening. And then there's the electrification of everything else. So right now, if you think about the Texas grid, with this winter storm, ERCOT under forecast demand by something like 15 or 20%, which is massive.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that's the day ahead forecast. So with all the data they have, historical, knowing the wind speed, weather temperature, humidity, all the things that are going to impact electricity consumption, they still busted the forecast massively. And part of the reason was because we have increased electrification of heating in Texas. But it's still a massive miss. So the electrification of everything, it's a real thing. It's how we're all speaking today. But yeah, so the expectation is 40% load growth by 2035. And so we really we have a heavy lift ahead of us.
Yep.
And circling back to where we kind of started on the federal government, in 2020, they issued an order called FERC 2222 that really enables the participation of these distributed energy resources, home batteries, and all these things that are at the grid edge in the markets to be assets that can be compensated in a big way. So, this is a network that needs to be built. We need to connect these assets, or we'll have a lot more talk on Twitter about, is the grid going to hold up this weekend?
Right.
So,
right. And this is kind of something super cool is to see that this is, in this instance, this is a place where it appears that adding in the kind of tokenized incentive makes a ton of sense because it's distributed geographically. It's not too big. You're not going to, get to like a crazy number of nodes. It's not too small that someone could just do it on their own. It's a pretty, seems like a pretty sweet spot. Let's see. Big Sky Tech. Did we already talk about or show the smart meter? No, I don't think we've. You talked about it and you showed us the app, but the device itself is, I mean, smaller than like a soccer ball, right? It's just like a thing that goes around your mains coming in.
Yeah. It's it's call it it's about that big. I don't know if you might kind of sense size there, but and then there's two clips called CTs that go around the mains.
Yep. And you put one in yourself. You said you're not handy.
I'm getting a little handier.
Okay.
Sitting in kind of these, warehouses with the solar installers. I'm getting there, but yeah, no, they're not difficult to install. So it's something everybody can do.
Cool.
If I live in an apartment, would I be able to install that, or like because my meter's, I guess, outside next to 50 other meters? Is that something I would be able to do, or you have to kind of be a homeowner?
So it's if you have a breaker panel in your unit, that's where it connects. So that would kind of be, yeah.
Huh. Okay, and then this is one that we had when we talked to you is like, can I put one in now if I want to jump the gun, and then join it up to React Network later, or should I just wait for React Network to come online and then when is it going to come online? Yeah.
I think we'll probably have a wait list in January with some of the initial early shadow meter devices we're partnering with.
Yep.
So we may not utilize every shadow meter. Of course, we want to make sure we're kind of civil resistance protected here, and so
Wait, what does that mean? What's
just make sure that all of these assets are real assets, and it's nobody can spoof data.
Yep.
So we'll have multiple options. I think we love the way that Helium kind of did things here, and ultimately had kind of 10 manufacturers that 10 plus that all made hotspots, and so that's the direction we're heading in. We want to make this an open source device that is as cheap as possible and can go anywhere.
Yep. And is that something? So I guess to that same point, like what's up, Jerm? An 8 kilowatt hour battery system. I think I've seen that in your garage. Of course it's custom because you're a fucking engineering geek. But this is who I love. Yeah. Can anything join the network? Can I start, like, what do you guys see in the next year or two? If I've got a Tesla, I've got my little e-Golf, using that battery, will I eventually be able to join that in? Probably not at the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's definitely on the roadmap, and it's on the roadmap early. I think, if you think about EVs, they are essentially enormous rolling batteries that end up in your garage and hooked to a bidirectional charger. Those are hugely valuable assets.
Right.
If we talk about, flexibility at the grid edge, if it's connected to a bidirectional charger at the right time, or if it just decides to, option, to the option of the owner to charge at times that are favorable, like that time in South Texas where power is free.
Yep.
These are all, really interesting things with home batteries.
Do you think we'll see people buying like cheap electric cars just to have the battery and then the added benefit of transportation? Or is it Max going to shake his head and tell me that's a stupid idea, which he usually does?
No, I think it's a brilliant idea. So the next car I'm buying is I'm in Texas, so I'm going to sound cliche here, but it's the Ford F-150 Lightning. And we did the math on this. 6 months ago, I think that the price of the Powerwall has come down, but prior to that, you could make the argument that buying a F-150 Lightning just for the storage alone was cheaper than buying the equivalent number of Powerwalls.
Really?
So it's basically a drivable Powerwall that you can go get groceries with. And the really cool thing about the Lightning is it does, it's built to be bidirectional, and it could power your home for 4 days, depending on how much you consume. So,
dang. So I wonder if we're going to see, and this is going off topic, I've got some buddies who do, what is that? Laturo, the car rental thing. So we'll see people are like stacking these projects together where they're buying like 6 Lightnings and parking them most of the time and letting them sit and charge their battery, and then every so often renting them out.
Yeah.
That's probably
and I think
a great idea.
There's a lot of thought around what happens to kind of, car batteries, when you used to, sell your old car, and, it's kind of parted out. if you think about, maybe you got one of the first Nissan Leafs in it, and maybe the battery's degraded,
Yep.
where it's not great to drive anymore. But when we talk about these batteries degrading, oftentimes they've lost 10% of their total capacity. They're still extremely useful.
Huh.
So one of those in the future, you kind of put it in your garage and have, instead of a 15 kilowatt hour battery, you have a 80 kilowatt hour battery that came off an old car, and you have hooked up with the right tech.
Oh,
I,
rad. Because our,
I
our
think that's
little e-golf is like 3 years old and it's starting to throw battery signals. And I'm like,
yeah.
do we just drive this thing off a cliff? But apparently not. We pull the battery out, put it on the garage wall, and win.
And to the question about the being able to connect to the specific battery, our goal is to connect all assets at the grid edge that we can kind of verify our real assets and have real responses. That's a great thing about the shadow meter too, that ties in to this as well. In addition to data, it allows us to integrate more assets that might not be a big brand, for instance. So we can port into the API for a Powerwall or a Franklin type battery. But for any other type of battery, if we can, hopefully we'll be able to verify a response by sending that battery a signal and seeing that load, carried by the battery. So the battery will discharge, and we'll be able to see it on the meter. So pretty cool things that we can do just in terms of integrating, the energy assets in a house. And really verifying that flexibility with that meter in place.
Cool.
Yeah, I got a quick question on the meter. I think you've thrown out the number 4% increase accuracy, which sounds like a small number. Can you quantify that in like actual dollar terms? Because it's obviously a way bigger number, and I think a more impactful number.
Oh, in terms of, sorry, say that one more time. Just in terms of the increase in the forecast.
Yeah, and then also being able to throw those numbers into a model, how much more money, like the value of that data, I guess, for people buying and selling power.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's electricity providers that'll pay for kind of the monthly style data. Again, we're talking about you can get 15-minute increment data historically, and so there's groups that'll pay a couple $100 for that data per customer, and that's not real time. And that's really data that people are paying for, hoping to get a customer to switch to a different retail plan. So there's some customer conversion in there, but it is very valuable data, and that's not even the planning element taken into consideration.
Right, but there's so many different revenue streams, right? Because you have the data
Yeah.
route, you have the power, the actual product of selling the power back to the grid. So there's so many different ways to make money, and so many ways that this token can add value. Just
Absolutely.
want to highlight that.
What's the what's the Aptera thing that Ed is talking about in the comments? Is an Aptera a car? I don't know what that thing is. Or is it a battery? Have you guys seen this?
I'm not familiar with the Aptera battery. If that's a battery, Ed.
I don't know.
But
He's psyched on it.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's like a solar power battery dual thing.
Yeah, no, we'd love to look into it. And yeah, it sounds like if you're not in the Discord, you need to be in the Discord, throwing good ideas in there.
That's right.
But,
So we should hit that or throw that up. So it's React Network. This is where to go if I can get it on top of everything.
I'm in the way here. Yeah,
There
sorry.
you go. I got you, Doug.
But
So good.
we're goal is to integrate as many assets as possible that again we can kind of verify that provide flexibility at the grid edge. Noted some of these whole home backup batteries. Oh, Aptera's a car. Okay,
Okay, cool.
very cool, very cool. There's also some smaller, and this is what Nick was mentioning earlier. Modular batteries that are sometimes used for camping that are controllable over Wi-Fi, and you could connect a refrigerator to it. So you can't do your whole home, but you could do some loads in your home that have kind of continual demand for electricity, and those are other assets that we could connect here in the future, down the road. But we think assets like EcoFlow things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had these
Yeah,
little batteries. They're small. You plug and the idea is, and I don't know if we've talked about it on the show before, but you plug your fridge into it when the grid is starting to go crazy and it's super hot outside and everyone's turning on their AC. Your fridge automatically switches over to the battery, so you stop demanding energy from the network, and it just keeps the whole thing a bit safer. Is like
yeah,
that's the non-technical way of.
yeah. And I think what I love about what we're doing is, right now, I was just for the last 12 hours have been on Twitter, just reading kind of doom tweets about is the grid going to hold up in Texas? And it's like watching a scary movie. You just don't know, and we absolutely could fail at any moment here. Looks
Really?
like we're gonna, and this is fear from Winter Storm Uri 2 years ago,
Yeah.
where it's a probably a longer show, but the grid here is not winterized. It's not durable. It's not resilient, and so a lot of the natural gas transmission lines and compressors, they froze up, and it wasn't windy, so the wind, the turbines didn't generate enough electricity. But gas, which is supposed to be, you can turn it on instantly, it also didn't work.
Right.
So so yeah, no, I've been watching this whole time. People in Texas, where I am, we really value energy resiliency. So you talk about the solutions we're talking about. Home batteries. Uh, you know, I think people here are excited about these assets for the personal resiliency
Yeah.
outside the value that we can generate as a network.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
For sure. You want to keep the
where-
lights on. I get
yeah,
it. They
these
need
are
a
these
heater
are
running.
cool, these are cool assets. Everybody should have these assets.
What do you got,
Yeah,
Max?
Dallas. I'm actually on the same grid as ERCOT, so if you get
Yeah.
blacked out, you're welcome to come over. But kind of to the grid point, is there a grid, either the East Grid, West Grid, Texas Grid, or just all of them are the same, that this would work better for? I don't know. Maybe one of them is more optimized for two-way, or like, what are you guys saying?
Yeah, no, it's pretty much ubiquitous across all of ERCOT. In terms of markets that are kind of on the front edge of being friendly to aggregations like the ones we're building. New York ISO. So really anything in the Northeast. A lot of these markets are pretty advanced and open for business. There's ways to monetize immediately, and I'm talking about aggregations that have flexibility. So batteries and thermostats. The data is valuable everywhere.
Right.
So
Are you guys rolling out in any particular place? This is what Siegfried's asking, because I think we talked about this, that you're going to push into like two or three regions first, and then see what happens.
Uh, yeah, so we'll be all U.S. In terms of the areas that are super interesting for
To
battery.
start, you're
Yeah,
going worldwide. Come on.
all U.S. But yeah, the Northeast, Texas, California, those are all pretty attractive markets
Yep.
for battery aggregations. But the data is valuable everywhere, so don't let that slow you down in terms of these smart meters.
Yeah.
We can use those anywhere.
Totally. And I was talking with Lee last night, and we're like, gosh, should we get a meter now and just put it on React later, or should we wait for React to come out? We might just do both, because I could always pull it off and put it back on. Ed's
Yeah.
asking this question about the battery stuff, and this is something we've talked about a bunch, which is that in 8 days, whenever the January 1st hits, there's a giant federal tax program. Max, am I saying that wrong? That's an incentive to basically install these things and give you a credit, if I'm reading it right.
Absolutely right. So yeah, it's the Inflation Reduction Act. Standalone storage is incentivized in a big way in that bill. And so beginning in 8 days, you'll have a 30% tax credit, so dollar for dollar reduction of your tax bill of the installed price of a battery. And if you do solar as well, you can get kind of greater benefits. So that's really excited. I think the government sees the need to basically beef up our power grid infrastructure, which is on average 40 years old and failing at rates greater than any developed country in the world.
Yep.
And this is a way to do that. and in terms of financing, yeah, we're working on bringing some solutions that hopefully will be in app that can help connect people with financing. But there are a number of existing ESG financiers out there.
Yep.
Goodleap, Mosaic, Dividend, so these assets are very financeable. Uh, and uh,
And
and
there's, I mean,
uh,
there's two options, right? There's like the $200 shadow meter option, whatever it ends up costing, and then it's like, I don't know, $100 to $300 is probably a reasonable price range there, and
yeah,
that seems approachable for most people. And then there's the much bigger one that's the whatever $7,000 to $15,000, depending on how much power you need to store for the
yeah,
battery. So there's kind of entry points for both sides, or
absolutely.
dual entry points maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're really excited about that. And we're looking into this. These smart meters, they could be, they could potentially be free under the Inflation Reduction Act as a rebate. We're
Yep.
not going to overpromise here, but
This is a guarantee. You will get everything free.
yeah, but they're enormously valuable devices,
Yeah.
and I think that the bill acknowledges that these are the types of devices that they would love people to to deploy in their homes, and we believe that this is the only mechanism to really incentivize it in a way where we can connect all these devices and have people that own them benefit from them.
Okay. Max, what was Fred's question that you're asking about?
Oh, he was just kind of asking about the difference between the load in the summer when it's hot out in Texas, for example, and right now when it's cold out. And I
This
guess
thing, right?
no one better than Dallas to explain. Things go down when it's cold because it's not winterized. So figured we would.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in Texas, for anybody on the call that doesn't live in Texas, you should move here. You get to wear cowboy hats, cowboy boots. It's 120 degrees in the summer, and it's 1 degree now. So there's lots of things to love. But
We're
yeah,
about to have two SEC football teams. It's
yeah. Typically, Frederick's right. Yeah, a lot more electricity used during middle of the summer, and so the grid is built around how can we ensure supply is available to meet demand at those times. We're actually seeing, and this is early, but we're starting to see increased winter demand in Texas. Not maybe not the same levels of kind of peak summer demand. But going back to the concept of the electrification of everything, including an increasing transition to heat pumps in Texas. We missed the forecast for this winter storm by 20%, and part of that is homes are not very well insulated here. We've got leaky homes,
Yep.
and also we're using electricity for more and more. So as the grid changes, we could see that these winter peaks are just as hard to deal with, for a variety of reasons than the summer peaks, and we have to have a more durable grid to handle that.
Dig it. All right, Siegfried, my man, back again. This is always kind of Max's question is really like, why do we need a token for this? Why can't people just buy a battery and put it on their house and not fiddle around with a token?
Yeah. No, I think we think this is a business that's pretty much impossible to build in kind of a traditional sense. It's one that has to be built in a Web3 style, and really existing businesses in the energy space. We see outsized kind of take rates. Customer acquisition is expensive, so the associated take rates by businesses is high, which
Wait,
results.
what's a take rate? Sorry.
Yeah, it's just how much a business would keep for itself as to have profit, rather than returning to a participant. So, for a traditional business, as an individual, you'd be a customer. The business would have to pay its executives, have to pay a sales force, and because in energy it's expensive to acquire customers.
Yep.
Think solar door-to-door knocking, as an example. Or electricity plans, billboards everywhere you go in Houston about which rate plan you should switch to. All of that costs money, and all of that results in less money being left over in terms of a value proposition to the customer. we see the token approach as a way to basically reward the people that are building the network, which is the users, the participants, and to maximize the value proposition for individuals. It's the only effective way to build something that's really massive and scalable here. It's to build it in that style. And in terms of the white paper, we're working to it'll probably be a post Christmas holiday, but still in the 2022 calendar year delivery here. So it's on the way. It'll be posted very, very soon, and would love to engage with the community here after that and talk about that more.
Yeah.
So I guess to boil that down to a high level, it's by doing it through crypto, I as the participant now have the token, and I'm like a pseudo owner of this network of everyone. So now
Yes.
I'm getting more money because I'm not paying some shareholder somewhere else. I am, essentially one of the shareholders. Obviously we're not shareholders. None of this is equities, not financial advice. Do your own research, all that. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess, how you would boil it down to a high level.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I think fair way to characterize. Yeah, owners as a token holder, you're an owner of the network you're building.
Cool.
And value accrues to the owners of the network.
Take it. We got the other one here that's pretty exciting, and this is not confirmed by a long shot yet, but I think everyone on the call listening on YouTube knows what helium is, and they're all excited to see helium use cases. This is something you guys have kicked around as a pretty cool idea. Is these meters have to communicate somehow?
Yeah.
And maybe helium is the best way.
Yeah. No. So something we're working on right now. These smart meters. Absolutely, we think helium LoRa is a way that we can have them communicate. We're working on that. Again, not trying to overpromise in 10 different directions, but we would love for that to be a viable solution. And it's in terms of the what we're working on for the remaining 8 days in December and early part of January. That is something that we're very focused on, and so yeah, I think it's as we look at this data, helium's everywhere, and it's everywhere. We have breaker panels, which is where our data lives.
Yep.
And so we think it's a well built network to serve the purposes of what we're doing. So. We're excited to hopefully on a future call say yes, and we're working in that direction.
Dig it. Hey, are there going to be different incentives for like a big building to hook its information in, so you can see all 30 apartments in that building versus my house with just my wife and I in it? How does that work? Like the size of the building or the demand of electricity or whatever it is?
Yeah. It's really per breaker panel is kind of how we've thought about it thus far. In terms of battery assets, if we think about a very large battery asset that might be associated with a multifamily unit, for instance.
Yep.
In your home, Nick, you might put a 15 kilowatt hour battery, but if you go to like a mid rise that has 100 units in it, they might have a battery that's a 200 kilowatt hour battery. That battery, of course, should receive more token rewards. It can have a much bigger impact when called into service.
Okay, so maybe I'm like, so where Paleo Treats is, where the little cookie business my wife and I have is, there's, what is it, Lee? There's like 8 businesses in this one building, and I'm pretty sure because we have a breaker box in our section, the smart play might be to buy whatever 8 of these shadow meters, $1,600 at $200 a pop, and then go put them on every breaker panel. Does that seem right, or is that like? Would you look at that like, no, that's gaming, you son of a bitch?
No, definitely viable. Most of these, if I had to guess, they're probably these individual. You're probably subleasing from a larger tenant, and you're probably sub-metered on your electricity.
Yep.
So you pay for your electricity, and so does your neighbor. And so that's really it's kind of the electricity consumption for a tenant is really, I think that's valuable information. So. Okay. Yeah, 8. If all 8 of those breaker panels had meters and were streaming data, and we knew how much the Gristle King cookie business was doing, and we knew how much the pasta business two units down was doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
yeah.
Not gaming, just lots of valuable data streaming to the network.
Cool. And there's no difference, or is there? There's a difference between that and just putting one shadow meter on, I guess, the main supply coming into the building. Like, does it get far more granular if you're putting it on each breaker panel, or doesn't really matter?
So in version 2 of our app, we'll be building in load disaggregation, and really, I think it's probably easier to achieve on a sub-meter basis.
Yep.
But that doesn't really, I think, matter to most participants. Um, one of the things that we'll have in onboarding here is that every smart meter will be connected with a meter that pays the utility bill. So as long as we have a meter connection, and this is all information as a utility customer, you may not know you have a smart meter associated,
Yep.
or a meter associated with your address, your
Yep.
residence, but you do. And so, really, we'll make sure that, this smart meter is associated with this utility meter, and we're not duplicating any data here. It's one for one, and it's real data. And so, yeah, I think that can all be handled in onboarding.
Dig it. Now, you haven't released token economics yet because the white paper is not out. And this might be something, Max, that you take the first stab at, because I think it's universal across crypto projects. Like, why do you want to get in early, and why should people hurry to join?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Dallas could just explain kind of the tranche idea that they have going on, because it's been explained to me once, and I'd rather not butcher it. But I mean, I had the same question, and then when I spoke to Jason, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to get involved in this. So, Dallas, it's probably easier if you just explain.
Yeah, no. So, like I said, the white paper will be out here next week, and Siegfried, would love to discuss with you in greater detail once you kind of see it there, and kind of think about what it means for you or any other participant. But yeah, I think, similar to a lot of token emission plans, we plan here to incentivize the people who take the most risk in being the early builders of the network with a lot of tokens. I think we've got what we think is a pretty good plan on not over rewarding, but we also want to be careful not to under reward. I think you're one of the first battery owners to connect to the network. A battery is a real cost. You should receive a lot of tokens. And so that's kind of the design of the plan. The reason to join early is because you'll be one of the foundational people that is key to building real value here. And we think that's important to scale the network. In terms of battery aggregations, in a lot of markets, the threshold for us to really sell insurance to the grid, like I talked about earlier, and start monetizing these aggregations is pretty low. We're talking, call it 7 to 8 batteries in pretty big geographic regions can generally exceed this 100 kilowatt hour threshold, which is pretty common in a lot of markets. And so we think this is a market, an area where we can generate revenue fairly early.
Pretty quickly, yeah. And I guess Max and I will do this. We'll do a full Savage show on why you should be early and why that matters, and the difference between being early and late, kind of going into the general piece. Let's see. Ed's asking, any talks. You heard of Boxable? Ed, do you know all these companies I don't know about? What is Boxable?
We have not spoken with Boxable, but we would love to. I think there's a lot of companies that have big aspirations around distributed energy resources and have great tech. What we think is really missing, at this intersection is this connective tissue, this flexibility layer.
Yep.
And so, I think that's really where we hope we can build real value for participants. But if Boxable, would love an intro.
Make the intro, yeah.
There's tons of folks with great tech.
All right. I'm not sure where What Siegfried he's talking about, but he seems psyched. Wow, cool.
He likes it. Yeah.
I hope so.
Wait,
I
so
hope that's a
Dallas,
while in.
could let's say like I live in a high rise, could my building just decide they're going to put up a bunch of these batteries, in the loading bay or wherever, I don't, and then essentially like all the apartments in the building would offload onto these batteries during times of peak demand, and like we wouldn't even know. Like, is that something that's possible? That like a multi-tenant dwelling could do that type of a thing?
Absolutely. And, we talked about the Inflation Reduction Act, the 30% tax credit for residential batteries. There's actually even bigger tax credits that are possible for batteries if they're owned in certain structures, third party ownership, and kind of commercial applications like you're talking about. But 100%, the tech with these batteries, your power can shift to the batteries, and you might not even see the lights flicker. It is built to not really impact your life in any meaningful way in terms of how your home operates, how your apartment operates. But absolutely, and in Houston where I live, after the number of hurricanes and winter storms and all this, wouldn't really have an interest in living in a mid-rise or a high-rise that didn't have a real energy resiliency solution.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like a marketing thing. Like your grid will not go down in this mega high rise, or your power won't go down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to kind of lose power in the one story house I live in, but if I'm on the 30th floor and it's all out and the elevator doesn't work, that's I don't want to go down
Yeah.
30 flights of stairs in the dark.
Yeah.
So
I didn't leave my apartment for a week during Uri. I was too afraid to get in
oh,
the elevator.
All right. Looks like you got a fan. All these football people know all this shit, so I don't know what a single wing back is, but I'm sure it means something to you. But it looks like you got a fan. So
excellent. Yeah. No, I appreciate the compliment to the offensive lineman. I've met a lot of dumb ones. Hopefully, I'm on the better half of that sliding scale.
yeah, you seem
But
pretty sharp to me.
working on it.
Yeah. All right. Oh, here's what
Hey Dallas,
Siegfried's wow is about. Cool. Yeah, that was it. Exciting for
on
me
the
too. What do you got?
sorry Nick.
Go for it.
So on the Inflation Reduction Act, on some of these tax credits, I know certain areas are incentivized even more. Is there a good place to find that information? And is it done by zip code, or how is that done? Because I know like Opportunity Zone 77002, which is downtown Houston, because it
Yep.
encompasses part of the third ward. There's huge tax incentives there,
Sure.
and that's one that I'm thinking like could be because there's these both luxury high rises, and then some of the third ward touches it. It could be a nice place to have a bunch of tax incentives for also high energy use, and also you have all the office buildings, all that. So I think there could be potential there. But aside from that, like where can people find the information on if their area has more tax incentives than the average area?
Yeah. No, I'm blanking on the website, but we've got a few that we've found. We'll probably build some of this into.
I'm sure you
Uh,
can find it at reactnetwork.io.
not yet. We don't have a
But
link to it yet, but
you guys will probably drop a
we'll
blog
put,
post about this, right? And just say like, hey,
yeah,
here's where to
we'll put
start looking.
something in Twitter, and we'll kind of build this in eventually here, and we can throw it into the Discord as well. But there's at least one good site out there that we've found. I just don't remember off the top of my head the name of it. That it'll show a whole host of things that you can do from whole home energy efficiency investment. If you can reduce your energy consumption by 20%, if you have a battery, if you do an electrical panel upgrade, and it kind of depends on your household income level as to if it's an upfront rebate or a tax credit. But yeah, there's a lot that can be done. And Max, you make a great point. In some of these areas, if you wanted to be an institutional deployer, or kind of you own these devices and you're putting them out into friends' houses, the tax credits that you could claim in that structure, based on how we read it and how we're thinking about it, could be really, really attractive. So it's there's interesting incentives around these assets. There's great resiliency benefits. And I'm just getting help from a friend here. Jason dialed in with the right answer. Thank you, Jason. The website is Rewiring America. So yeah, check that out. It's a really good site. And for people that are engaged in their electricity consumption, uh, and like saving money, like connecting those assets to the network, and potentially earning a nice little return too.
Yep.
It's a good site. Rewiring America.
Cool. Is that rewiringamerica.com, something like that? Probably.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, that should wrap today's show. I think it's always interesting to see what people are doing in this space and how it ties in. We talked about the whole grid piece. We talked about how it might tie in with helium, which is super cool. And it's just, I think one of the coolest things about this like whole blockchain and meat space arena is how many different industries you get to find out about, whether it's power or weather or whatever, demo with cars, et cetera, et cetera. So I appreciate Dallas you coming on and taking the time to kind of walk through it and demonstrate competence and excellence in this. I'm super excited to see what you guys do with it.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Max. And yeah, like I said, we'll hope to have the white paper out next week. Thanks everybody that dialed in and listened. We're excited. Got a lot of work to do.
Yep. Right on. All right, that wraps it. See you guys later.
Thanks. Bye.